Everybody learned about the Underground Railroad. The Escape North, Harriet Tubman, Canada, the North Star, all the things. What almost nobody was taught is that there was another direction that people ran, south, into Mexico, for decades before the Emancipation Proclamation. In 1829, Vicente Guerrero, a president of African and indigenous descent, issued a decree abolishing slavery in Mexico, more than 30 years before Lincoln, which meant that if you were enslaved in the American South and you crossed the Rio Grande, you were free, legally. And people did it, of course, enough that it became known. A formerly enslaved man named Felix Haywood said it years later. All we had to do was walk south, and we would be free as soon as we crossed the Rio Grande. And for some people, it really was that simple. Not easy, but possible. And Mexico didn't just allow it, they enforced it. When slave catchers crossed the border trying to take people back, they were pushed out. There are documented cases of Mexican authorities refusing to return people who had escaped slavery, even under pressure from the United States. They didn't care. In the 1850s, armed incursions from Texas into Mexican territory increased significantly. One of them, led by Texas Ranger James Callahan, crossed into Mexico under the claim of pursuing raiders. I guess he thought they was dumb. But accounts from the time make it very clear that recovering Black people was part of the objective. Mexican forces and local allies pushed them back. But on their way out, Callahan's men burned down the town of Piedras Negras. But Mexico still refused to return the people who had escaped. And the descendants of those who made it, the Muskogos, they're still in Coahuila today, still carrying language, culture, memory from the people that crossed that river. Now, here's the part that matters. When Mexico abolished slavery, it didn't just change life inside its borders. It created a line. On one side, people were property, right? On the other, they weren't. And that line became a problem for people who needed slavery to exist. The Texas Revolution didn't happen in a vacuum. Mexico had already moved to end slavery, and many of the people pushing for independence were trying to preserve it. That's part of what was being fought over. So you end up with a border that at one point in history functioned in the opposite direction of how people think about it now. People crossed it to get out of the United States, to get free. And they found that freedom in Mexico. That's not a side story. That's part of the story. And it's the one that a lot of people just were never taught.